Sat Shri Akal, and welcome to Content is King for B2B Marketing, another informative webinar by the Punjabi Chamber of Commerce's San Francisco chapter. Thank you for joining us today. I am Neeraj Juneja, your host for today's session, where Kulwant and Sandeep, who are both thought leaders in their fields, will discuss why content marketing is critical for B2B organizations. They'll also provide a 360-degree view on the topic, not just from a content marketing seller standpoint, but also from the buyer side. Before we get started, I wanted to wish all the amazing dads on the call today, including myself, a very happy Father's Day, and a very happy Father's Day to all our amazing dads as well. I'll share more about PCC shortly, but just wanted to say that signing up for our chamber membership is super easy and it's all free. If you can just jump back to the previous slide. There we go. No, next one, please. Thanks. A little bit about myself. I'm a numbers guy, have over 2 decades of finance experience. And in my current job, I head up finance and accounting for a Series A insurtech called Cowbell. Cowbell is a rapidly growing startup, and we provide AI-powered insurance for cyber threats like ransomware, which have increased dramatically in the recent months. As a finance professional, I've always believed cash is king. So it is interesting that I'm hosting a webinar where content is king. I'm thrilled to be a member of the Punjabi Chamber San Francisco leadership team, and I'm deeply grateful to Gurpreet for asking me to be part of such an amazing initiative. Before starting my current job, I have fond memories of having this thing called time. And when I have that, I enjoy designing, building, woodworking, and generally DIY stuff. Next slide, please. A little about the Punjabi Chamber of Commerce. It's a non-profit chamber of commerce, and it's dedicated to helping Punjabi businesses and professionals across the world. Since we started in 2017, just 4 years later, we have become truly global with 17 chapters in 5 countries, and we continue to grow. We are funded by donations, and during the first leg of our current campaign, we've raised over $100,000 already. So what do we do with these funds? The Punjabi Chamber literally saved lives. During the worst of the recent pandemic wave in India, the Punjabi Chamber distributed 100 oxygen concentrators. Not only that, we've partnered with Rotary International to set up 2 oxygen plants in Manali and Jalandhar. In addition, we provide resources, networking opportunities, group discounts and benefits, advocacy on behalf of our members, and access to informative sessions like this one. And all of this is available free to all our members. All you have to do is sign up online. Being part of the Punjabi Chamber also means that I get to work alongside amazing leaders. You will now hear directly from 2 of them, Kulwant Sandhu and Sandeep Dal, both experts in their fields. Quick housekeeping, please put all your questions in the Q&A box and we'll address them at the end. We have time set aside. And now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Kulwant. Kulwant, please take it away.
Well, Sat Shri Akal to everyone. I'm Kulwant Sandhu. Thank you, Neeraj, for a warm introduction to PCC. And I'm wishing you happy Father's Day to all of them. Joining us on Sunday, giving us a few minutes of your day. We really appreciate that and hope you guys have a wonderful day after we're done with this. Just a little bit about myself. Neeraj mentioned this is content is king. That's what we're going over. And as a supply chain leader in this space, in different industries for 30 some years, I've run both operations and supply chains globally in high-tech space and medical devices, worked in Maxtor, Abbott, and some startups in the Silicon Valley. And currently I'm at Outset Medical as the VP of Integrated Supply Chain. We make dialysis equipment, as you can imagine, in the last 15, 17 months with COVID and my job become even difficult, and we're still going through that. When me and Sandeep touched on content is king, I think it was intrigued my point of view to say, hey, let's look at where the content lands. And people like me, right, what's our perspective, who adopt into the business to say, how does content affects the supply chain leaders or the decision makers and our perspectives weaved into today's webinar. And we'll have some more coming up. But I think for further ado, my responsibility not only is to look at strategically our growth and future looking supply chain issues, where the content comes a big part of my decision making, and our planning and S&OP, logistic and distribution. All of those supply chain end-to-end work streams have impact of not only cash, but also content, which affects the cash for the businesses. And I'm also glad to be on as a co-chair of the Punjabi Chamber of Commerce here with Sandeepji. So for further ado, I will like Sandeep to introduce himself as well before we start the webinar.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kulwant, and thank you, Neeraj, and happy Father's Day again from my side also. And I must start with saying that I have always been saying, after 30 years of my experience in sales, marketing, and even technology and business systems and processes, that manufacturing is one of the most complex fields I have ever worked with. And I have high respect for supply chain leaders like Kulwant, who and their teams who have been managing the complex nature and the global supply chain in the past. And with the disruptions happening due to COVID or tsunami and all that, I think I can safely say that supply chain is the heart of any organization. If you take away that, even though whether it is manufacturing or something, then very few is left. And supply chain, in my opinion, has lots and lots of materials, like millions of products, hundreds and thousands of products, and all of them are very important for manufacturing the products. And when I joined a manufacturing organization a few years back, I was very surprised to see that how a single part not taken correctly can unsettle the entire supply chain. So, and how content can help and has been helping supply chain leaders. We'll talk about that. And here's a little bit of a past about me. I have started after my MBA in 1992 from India University of Allahabad. I did my around 13-14 years in marketing and business strategy and sales. I launched a couple of global companies and their startups and their divisions in India. Then I moved to technology and I became a management consultant for SAP and other kind of technologies nearby. And I was also part of the global organizations for the leading their business processes across. And I was also in medical devices industry for some time. Currently, I am the founder and CEO of two of my companies, and one of them is digital marketing. We are helping small and business companies in online presence, and also my advisory services, where we are going in for M&A and as well as providing advising to organizations from to taking them forward and helping them grow to 2x to 10x. Now, I am proud to be part of South San Francisco Bay Area chapter and co-chair with Kulwant, and very excited to be here. So next slide. So the content is king. Let's start going. And like Neeraj said, you can put the question in the Q&A section, and we can talk about it in the end. And today's topic is content is king for business to business marketing, and our goal is to provide a 360-degree view to you, because most of the time I see that the people talk about the marketing part of it, have not understood the other part, other side of the table, how they are utilizing the content and how it is better for them or not. By the way, this was 1996, and content is king was said by none other than Bill Gates in 1996. And I was surprised to see that it says the content is where I expect much of the real money will be made on the internet, and just as it was in broadcasting. And that was in 1996. We are around 25 years, I think. And maybe we are late by 25 years on this webinar, but we are still ahead, I think, from 95% of the people who have not even caught up to that. And if you look at the LinkedIn and all these places where all the business to business activity is happening, even there, maybe 3 to 5% of the people are actually creators, rest are consuming. So you have very less competition if you are actually creating the content. Next slide. Okay, so what is content marketing? Let's look at I'm not very good at providing definitions, but here is one very easy one, which I think Neil Patel put something together, and I added my own spice to it. And then it says that we are looking, when we are looking for content marketing, we're looking for long-term strategy. We're looking to build the relationship with our target audience, in this case, the business buyer or the supply chain leaders, and even giving them the high quality content which is relevant to them and which is actually solving their problems. Now, when Kulwant and I was talking about what kind of problems are we talking about, I think we were talking about, Kulwant, like regulatory requirements. Like if you have you're thinking of creating a new part number for a finished good or something like that. What there are many ways to do that. So if there are some contents and webinars and case studies and white papers and all that, your team must be doing a lot of those readings before deciding what to do. Am I correct in that?
Absolutely, Sandeep. So what we look at is, what are the industry standards out there, right? There's a lot of experience in the team, but we also looking at ways for adopting the new technology or new solutions and implementing that for the growth of our businesses and add efficiency. And how do we gain that knowledge, and how do we go to this kind of content? And content's everywhere, right? There's people calling you, there's people sending you stuff, there's blogs, ebooks, right? Webinars, you name it, right? Newsletters, articles, all that's in your face. A lot of people, we get bombarded with lots of material. And of course, based on our need, we pick and choose. That's one way when people are pushing content to us. The other way is we are seeking content for credible sources, like where we already build the trust as supply chain people, like Gartner's Magic Quadrant or McKinsey's of the world, or ThomasNet, right? So we go to those to gain that, okay, this is the right solution. We're not the first one, right? So there's a trust, the validation also occurs in before we even engage.
Yeah. Okay, next. Do you, okay. So I think one thing I wanted to say there also is that, like you said, trustworthy content is very important with the long-term strategy, like which you said, and I think you said the same thing on, and from providing your perspective, that, and another thing which we have understood is the advertising. Even as a consumer, I find we have been sold to all the time. Right? We have been sold to all the time from media, from other places, right? People are trying to get, transactional kind of relationship with us as a buyer of anything. Now, if we are able to give some with long-term view, solve some real problems of from the business buyers or from other people, then we can gain that trust and get that confidence from them, and then you guys are buying millions of dollars worth of products. So that's that relationship, that trust, even when not only millions of dollars, I think complexity and the regulatory nature of your goods or your processes also makes it very difficult for you to trust a new guy. So you need some kind of case studies and white papers and all that. And I think here, Seth Godin, who is, I consider him as the godfather of modern marketing. I used to read a book from when I was doing MBA from Philip Kotler and all those people in 1992. But Seth Godin is is a guru right now, is the godfather, and he says that content marketing is the only marketing that's left. And he said that in 3-4 years back. And I'm surprised when I discovered these things, and still many people are finding it difficult to believe it, and they think writing a blog somewhere or writing a small advertorial somewhere is content, which is not. So we are actually trying to understand, like it says here, what is actually the pain, do some survey, figure out what actually is needed by the customer, figure out what actually it's going through in their mind, and then create a content which they want to consume instead of creating a content like it says here, which is kind of an advertisement, right?
Yeah, I
And
agree.
yeah.
Yeah, so Sandeep, that's exactly, I think, how I feel at the receiving end of it. I'm like, okay, why don't people take time to learn about the problem, right? Learn about what are they going to, what are people looking for, instead of generally cold calling or giving me a lot of stuff that, or me or my team, that is not relevant to us.
Yeah.
Right? If
And it
people
is
listen and curate their product accordingly, that has win-win on both sides, right?
And like you said, you guys are busy. You have factories to run. You have businesses to run, right? So and I'm surprised to see, and in my businesses also, we have seen that it is increasingly getting very difficult to get hold of the decision maker, right? Even if you get it, so it's a better thing is to create something compelling, to create something which can be used. Like I was thinking of a scenario where, and it happens all the time, that the supply chain leader like yourself is traveling and is reading a case study and calls the secretary and say, hey, book a meeting with these people. And then you are actually jumping ahead, and that guy is getting jumped ahead from the person who is meeting your other people all the time, and doing some legwork. So we are not replacing the salespeople from that perspective. We're just saying the content rightly done with the right vision helps in moving the prospect very quickly from a prospect, from a cold prospect to a warm prospect, and then moving them to a follower, and then from follower they become the fans. And that's what Seth Godin says, that from fans you can make them as your promoters of the products, right? So that's what we have been talking about. What do you think about that? That does
resonate, right? I'll give you an example that now, the worldwide COVID situation, logistics nightmares, and materials running out. The companies, there is very, very smart companies out there utilizing the content marketing, and they are sending me reports of what is the worldwide port situation, or what is the worldwide flight situation, region by region, which is excellent. Yeah. I tend to open those and read about it. Guess what? I'm building trust with those guys, right?
Yeah.
Building trust to say, okay, I'm good when I have an issue or I need to book a charter or whatever, I'm gonna go to these guys. Right? Yeah. That's how it lands on with the right content. They're not pushing, they're not calling me, they're not saying, hey, give me 15 minutes on your calendar. None of that, right?
Yeah, and I agree with you. And then that, and then you were talking about going deep and understanding the need and the problem we are facing. Like these people have done some research and they know you are looking for that right now, and they are reaching out. And I was also thinking about what just a tip here on the side, that when what kind of a content to create, how we find out. One reason is to create a survey and ask others, right? Ask leaders like you or your teams. The other is to go to Google, and there are many tools, and find out what questions are people asking right now. What are the questions? How many hits are happening for that? And then even look into the long tail keywords, which Google proposes in the bottom of the page. Say, these are the questions people are usually asking, and then looking into it. So there's a lot, and then writing content around that will actually help reach out and solve the problem which you and I are talking about. So it's Absolutely. Great. I think we understand, and people can get benefited by that. Yeah. So can we move to the next one? If you want to say something here.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to your last point is that, okay, yeah, there is enough content or another problem statements out there. For example, in COVID, I think it's pretty generally known, and there's enough content there to say, but 27% of the companies like to have end-to-end supply chain visibility, and they don't have solutions yet, right? So companies who are products or services in that area who can address those issues should be curating their messaging or content accordingly to address those issues for companies.
Yeah, no, I agree. And can we move to the next one? Okay, so here is where does this content and when you look at a marketing, where does it fit in? When we look at marketing as a strategy for any organization, there are multiple parts of it. So here are a few things which we have been using in the past, and as the years go by, based on the new dynamics, new markets, new customer behavior, these things change. But I believe right now, content marketing is the foundation for many things, and and it can be a differentiator for any organization. So I think if we look at that, can you hit on the another yeah. So when we look at content marketing from such, like we talked about how it is getting increasingly difficult to get hold of a decision maker a few minutes back. Now, what if we turn it around and make the decision maker call you as a salesperson, by providing such a service, such a good content, such a good case study and white paper and all that when they read it and say, hey, this is the one place we need to talk to. And when we call that person and we say, a salesperson receives the call, and that is actually a pull strategy we use. And then that's, in my opinion, that's even better than advertising. Right. And you're saying the same thing, that trust is built on that.
Agreed.
Right?
I think that's the easier and more efficient for all the busy professionals, right?
Yeah. And then consume it, then call. And another thing which I always say to my partners and customers is that we are building moat and competitor. When we invest in shares, we look at the moat of a company from a global perspective, how customers are looking, how customers are aligned to this company, how it is their financials, and that's considered the moat and a competitive advantage. And then I think content marketing, by doing it right and providing right content, you are building the trust, and that is actually a moat. And you were saying, I think you will confirm that it takes maybe 6 months or 1 year of an effort or maybe more to change an important, reliable partner, or maybe years, right? I'm not saying someone, I think it takes years to move away and get space in somebody's calendar. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I think that you hit the right point. I think be patient is the message, right? It's not that you can get the return immediately. That doesn't work that way anymore, right?
Yeah.
So be patient and stay focused. I think you will see the results.
And once you are able to motivate your customers, I think that you can get better prices and actually avoid, if I can say the word, avoid the commoditization of the products. Otherwise, if you have commodities in front of you, you can negotiate with the price and all that. But as a marketer, I believe I want to move my products away from the commoditization and create something which looks unique, which gives some different things so that I can get better terms and better prices. Do you think it is okay for a supply chains if we are able to solve the problems and actually resonate with you and help the organizations, even though we will get more better terms and better prices also?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, supply chain people always look for better value in everything we do. However, I think to your point, if we see a service or a product or a software, whatever is addressing that need, and it's a better solution for the business, and even if we have to pay a little extra, we make that decision, right? Okay. Instead of patching it later, we'd rather go for that, right?
Yeah.
It's because your content or your solutions stood out as compared to others.
Yeah, and then even if you will say that even if you are reducing the cost by saving a few dollars here, you may end up spending more time getting your. So that's why I think it's better. Sales supply chains usually want to have their own preferred partners across the board, right?
And also that's the reason we also do a lot of analysis and a lot of learning ourselves before we make those decisions. So it's not done in a vacuum. It's not done on the fly either.
And I think content marketing and content, not marketing, content itself, I should not say content marketing. I keep saying that content itself helps you on that. So let's move on to the next one. Maybe we can.
Yeah.
I think. Would you like to take this?
Yeah, so I think everybody on this call is, and all the smart people, we all know what the marketing is, but the content marketing, I think our focus in this webinar is just business to business, right? Not business to consumer, but it's also used for business to consumers as well. Doesn't matter your business is small, medium, or large, you're selling services or you're selling solutions or you're selling hardware or software, it applies to everybody. It applies to even if you're launching a product, if you don't tell anybody what you're building or selling, people not gonna know. So this is why content marketing is important, that you need to advise and let others know. And there's different ways of letting people know. So to me is, doesn't matter you're finding, establish a law, you're looking for a lawyer or you are, how do you, even let's take that example. If you're looking for any legal services, don't you look for the content first? You search the web, you search, I need a estate planning guy, or I do need a different type of attorney. You go look for that, right? Before you make a call, you look at, even these days, what kind of reviews they have, what is people saying? You build your trust with the content before you approach or make an appointment with those guys, right? Doesn't matter, it's a dentist or any services, even for home, even a cleaner at home, right? You do look for all of that, right? Before you, the content, before you make that decision.
Can I say something here?
Yeah.
I just remember you talked about lawyer and attorneys, right? When I was looking for my investor visa in the United States, when I'm a Canadian citizen, when we moved here, I was looking into all kind of case studies and what kind of businesses. There are many lawyers, many lawyers, many attorneys, but I went in for someone who has been constantly, now I realize he has been constantly advising on the internet, and whenever I searched for something, he would have some story to answer that my question. And he was so on top of it that even after interviews, and I think I paid him maybe 30-40% more money than others. So I think this example is great.
Perfect example. Yeah, absolutely. I think even people are educating themselves and getting smarter. But let's say you go in front of the attorney, paying $600 an hour, but you also are already, you know what questions you're going to ask. You're educated enough, and with that content in mind, and you leverage more, even if you're paying more, you leverage is also more with that meeting, right? So the same thing applies in the corporate world, right? I'm not going to go over every, I think you got the gist of it. Even if you're picking a school for your children, or an internship or a job, right? Don't everybody goes to the Glassdoor or anywhere to see what people are saying about that company. What's their brand? Do I see myself working there, right? So all that stuff goes pre-planned in my mind based on content before you make or apply for that job, for example, in this case, right? So these are things are important. And same thing with, as you landed the job and you're learning, how do you learn? How do you grow? What is out there? And even if you want to move within the company, you learn about that based on content, based on interviews, based on videos, or whatever those things are. I think that's why I think emphasizing the content piece of it is important. And this today we are going to just focus on professionals in small, medium-sized businesses and not consumer products today. And in future, we can continue to expand on it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask a question to the people on the call to say, learning about what the content is and putting that in perspective, how many times have you downloaded a white paper or ebook or watched a video or a webinar to solve a problem, right? If even by raising hands, you can say, hey, a lot of people have done it, right? You go to,
I have, yeah.
So it's not, I won't be surprised that nobody will say it doesn't influence their decision making. Even some people even learn about different products by just looking at the content, right?
Yeah, I would like to say here,
Yeah.
a very, very nice example I just come into my mind, that when I moved from to technology, half of my knowledge, I should say, about technology and the business systems and business processes was based on Google, the teacher who was producing, who was giving all kind of content to me, and I was reading all the time. And now I realize, while you're giving this example, that I think 50% of my education, I never trained myself officially by going to an institution from technology perspective, but I learned them as a subject matter expert, and all these ebooks and white papers and webinars and videos were the core of my learning. And I think you're saying the same thing. I agree with you 100%.
Absolutely. And then at the we are saying 360. I'm on the other side of the spectrum, right? So marketers are selling stuff, software, hardware, or services. And how do we view this journey, right? We're making billions of dollars decisions. We're spending millions of dollars for our business. There's a lot of pressure on the people, on the decision makers. Let's say in my case, my team. And how do we view it? So there's a lot of research, lot of pre-reading, lot of interviewing, lot of learning goes on actually before we even we consume the content. And of course, if let's say if I'm looking for getting a supply chain, let's say risk monitoring or any other software or service or even a part, you'd be surprised. Let's take some I would say last 5-7 years, I start seeing more and more content in supply chain, especially hardware companies, small businesses, especially.
Yeah.
I start seeing more and more. It never, even today, let's say I'm looking for a machine shop or I'm looking for a sheet metal shop. If I press and look for suppliers in that space, and when you go to their website, there's either very minimalist website with nothing in it, and you get nothing out of it, right?
Yeah.
So to me, even if you, as a first thing, you have a nice website with the right content in it, and people can navigate through and learn what their competencies are, it makes it much efficient and easier.
Yeah.
Instead of taking a phone call from a sales guy, giving them 50, or they continue to bug you and give you 10 minutes, and they're not addressing what you're looking for.
Yeah.
It becomes frustrating, and they go out of the race literally because they don't have even a website, right? So that's a very simple example. And that happens a lot, right? People are catching up and seeing the value that there is probably no immediate ROI on it, but it is an ROI in the long run. Right.
I agree. I agree. And I was remembering that and a few years back, I read a book called Spin Selling from a person called Nick Rickman. And somebody told me about that around 8-10 years back, that this is the best book anybody in business to business marketing should read it, because it tells what it tells us. And I would like you to confirm that it tells us that when we are as a salesperson going and talking to, suppose, a buyer in a company, right? A buyer in a company, we download the information in front of that person. He takes the papers, he takes the slides, and he says, okay, I like the product. Now he has to go through different committees and all that and provide that information, and he has to do that internal selling. Now that internal selling he can do, you are not there as a salesperson to support him at that time. So as a marketer, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that the person is usually not there, and internal selling, if that internal selling is not done correctly, yeah, you are actually, salesperson is losing, and the person actually, while you have done the entire work and the presentations are done and at the right time, because at some point in life, you will see that in that 5 or 7 points, somebody will just come up with that and question. I think
yeah. So I think you're asking this question, right? Why is it critical? And as a decision makers to the business, right, from business to business, you're absolutely right. the cycle time's very long, right? From the
Mhm.
time, let's say we're planning for next year's budget now, right?
Okay.
We're thinking through that strategy now. So
Yeah.
what are we going to solve for the business next year? How much our spend is going to be? So those are the pre-planning or a strategy phases of it. And then there's the solution phases of it. And then we say, okay, now we need to scrutinize. Before I get to spend that money next year, I
Mhm.
need to learn about that product. I need to go find those solutions. And this is where now all this I call it pre-planning cycle time, it is where we are spending our time, learning about ourselves. And you're right, before we even get to spend the money, let's say next year, this next 6 months, we're going to spend not only learning ourselves, RFQing, demoing, or whatever else is needed, auditing, regulatory, all the pieces of the puzzle, financial, and then followed by, then when we are comfortable, then we have our internal audience,
Yeah.
right? We had
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
CEOs, CFOs, right? So we have to sell. Now we become salesperson for that company.
Yeah.
Now we are selling. When we are convinced, we're selling internally the why we picking this solution.
Yeah.
Right? Why I want to spend more money than solution B, right?
Mhm.
Solution B is cheaper, but why am I want to spend more money on solution A? I think that that's a big journey, or you can
Yeah.
call it a whole supply chain life cycle of if from content marketing to closure, right?
Yeah.
It's got a long life cycle and it has to be done correctly. And it's, again, end of the day, it's not a business, it's a human beings making that call,
Yeah.
right? Who are you dealing with? Ease of dealing with a person, not only the product itself. And that's the key when you're working on developing content and landing it on the people you tended to. Make sure all those things are back of your mind, that the people are also reading not just your blog or your white paper, we are reading other stuff as well.
No, I think that's what I was asking. So it's great, and I think you, like you said, it is because of the larger and complex nature of the products. Also, the more difficult and more internal selling is required. And I if I can assume that if the white papers and webinars and all those things, I think the other case studies can be put together and as a supporting documents for those decisions at that time can be and some of the documents which are written by industry experts. It's not that we can just get it right, but if somebody, and I'll just throw a tip here, that as a business to business marketer, we should be looking at, if you don't, in your organization, if you do not have, I can tell every business owner or a leader here, if you do not have the right bandwidth in your organization to write a blog or case study, go to LinkedIn, find a retired person, or even you can note down a website called clarity.fm, I think it is that, or maybe other organizations like that, which are providing per minute services to provide you some context around what's going on in the other organization. And then you can build your authority, provide the right content, write the right content, and have their names to it, so that it brings some authority, brings some authenticity to your, rather than a salesperson writing some blog in the evening, right? So that's, I'm not against salespeople, I have been in sales, but I'm saying that we need to bring in some authority towards that content, so that when you take a multi-million-dollar decision or with your team and CFO and all that, then you have that 100% conviction that you are taking the right decision. And like in your industry, you are saving human lives. So it is very important that somebody authentic, somebody who has an authority is writing it, and that you're buying the right stuff. I think.
Okay. Absolutely. I think you made a good point that not only we need, this is not competing with sales, this is part of that process, right? So this is a complementary or collaborative process that needs to work. Whenever companies develop their marketing strategy, they need to work with the sales and the goals of the company.
Yeah.
And then just talk, I think this last bullet is very intriguing to me, that we are the 70% of the journey is already there when we're talking to the salespeople,
Yeah.
and which is important, right? It's the key point. It's not like something new pops up and somebody convinces us, right?
Yeah. I know. I think if I can make a statement here and correct me, like you said, this thing right now, 70%. And I always tell people that your salesperson is being preceded by your blogs and all that. And when your salesperson leaves the organization after meeting the buyer or a supply chain leader or anybody who is buying it, that your other content on the outside, and then you is supporting your salesperson. Now, we are not replacing; they cannot be replaced. But we're saying is before and after journey of that salesperson. This, whether it is website like you said, or content like case studies or webinars, these things are supporting these salespeople and making their life easier and helping them solve actually the problems of the customers.
Got it. Yeah. I think, Sandeep, we are down to 13 minutes. I want to wrap it up and give people maybe 7-8 minutes for any Q&A.
Okay.
So here on this here, I think we touched on a few of these points. Okay. This is just some data points to show, make it very targeted approach. Your content needs to stand out, and make sure whatever method of content marketing you choose, it's effective. And there is no right or wrong answers. If it doesn't work, make sure you also change it, right? Get some feedback, continue to revise and change, and be patient. And it's going to get better and better over time. Okay. So I'll let you go over.
Okay, I will be fast here. So we have gone through a lot, but like we can summarize it by saying that we need to define your goal. Like Kulwant said, that we should know why we are, what is the goal, whether you are doing it for the awareness of the your brand, you are trying to increase that, you are increasing the customer loyalty, or you are trying to engage the customer, or these are the goals, or any other goal. So have that goal in your mind. When you're writing, or you're asking someone to write, or having an authority figure to write it, you need to figure out what your customer is doing at this point of time. What is his actual pain? Where is she or he is hanging around? You know, if he or she is hanging around on different supply chain forums looking for answer, you should be aware of that. You know, you should be aware of the problems going on. Like people who are sending you emails right now, they are aware that as a supply chain leader, you are worried about the disruption of the supply chain. So they are sending you information on that. That's what it is. And then we need to identify the content formats. You talked about a few formats like white papers, case studies, webinars, even quizzes, and even sending emails. Those are the right ones, and many more. I think we need to create an effective content, and that we have already talked about that. And then, you know, we promote our content on different platforms. It can be different blog sites. It can be different. I think there are many integrators who are producing blogs. There can be very good white papers and all that, and then promote it on LinkedIn and other Facebook and all those places, even though Facebook is not that much for the B2B. This is still being used. Evaluate your performance, look into your performance, how many views you're getting, how much of engagement you're getting. You're not just buy the likes, like some people have been buying it, likes from somewhere and paying money. Who is actually there? And so that you can find out the valuable information and rinse and repeat and improve and repeat. Would you like to say something here?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think you touched it. I think this is iterative process. You continue to strategize and keep an eye on your goal or what you're trying to get out of it, and also curate it often and get some feedback as well, right? And continue to repeat and make it better.
Yeah. Okay. And next.
So these are, I think you touched on it. I'll let you go, Sandeep, to summarize for us.
Okay, so I usually say that long-term strategy, like we said, and you and I have been saying, patience. And I think it is like going to a gym, like building muscle, and you can't build a muscle in a day, and you have to keep going it for 6 months or at least, and keep continuing to go that. have your goal and mission correct, know your audience, like we said a few minutes back, and curate content accordingly to help alleviate the pain point or find out actually what the need of the customer is, your audience is, and then figure out what the best channel for that kind of an audience is, like not sending it on Facebook. I think people understand Facebook is not for that, but there are many places where supply chain or buyers of business and business selling or decision makers are hanging around. We need to reach that point. And most important thing, last point, is have a content calendar. We should make it a habit to do it. It's not that you do one blog or one article and then maybe 3 months later you figure out, hey, I just did one blog and now I'm thinking of having another one. That doesn't work. You need to have consistency in this so that you can produce every week something, or every 2 weeks something, depending on your nature of your business. Then customers will also start, they get used to it and they look for it. Subconscious mind says they look for it. Do you agree with that? Or?
Absolutely. I think you touched it correctly. Not only think we need to, it's hard, right? Marketing is not easy. It is very hard. You need to be creative all the time, and it takes time. It takes time to come up with the content, adjust your calendar, but it's the consistency. I think it's the key, besides patience. Consistency. If you can continue to have your content out there and have a consistent message, and you learn that this is your niche, I think that will address your goals for the business as well. And I'm, as a supply chain person, spending cash for the company and making decisions, it's very important to measure. So I also have a lot of KPIs, and I encourage marketing folks to do the same, to have the KPIs and adjust your strategy. If it's not working, drop it, no bad feelings. Let's go find something else that's going to work, right? So with that, I think, Neeraj, I'll get it back to you.
Thank you, Kulwant, and thanks, Sandeep. Very informative. I learned a lot. We do have one question that came through. Pankaj, thanks a lot to know that you're finding it as great information. Pankaj's question is, what is a good rule of thumb to dedicate time to content marketing?
I will take this question here, Kulwant. I think I will first of all answer it in a legal language, like people say, it depends. It depends on what your goal is and what your product is, what kind of products you have, what kind of business you are in, and how much of a competition is there. Sometimes, the most important thing you need to do is to figure out what is your market, what is your other competition is doing, and figure out what is their online strategy, how much of a content are they producing, and what kind of hits are you getting. So my suggestion, Pankaj, to you will be, go and look for a tools kind BuzzSumo, and figure out from there, and maybe figure out from there what is running, what is catching up, what are people looking at these days, what is going viral, and then decide from there how much do you need to do based on your goals. You want tens of leads to come in, then you have to spend a little more time than just you need to just keep people aware of that. I hope I have answered that question.
So Sandeep, Pankaj had a couple of additional points of information from his standpoint. He said his target audience is the C-suite. And he says they're a fee-based advisor specializing in employer-sponsored retirement plans.
We are a fee-based advisor specializing in environment. Okay, so when we talk about my target audience is C-suite. So in a C-suite kind of a thing, I think you will need to spend a lot of, because like we said, in a C-suite kind of an organization, it is very difficult to get time from them. Okay, so when we are very difficult to get time from them, it is very important that we reach from them, and we cannot just advertise to a C-suite. We can, and it will take a lot of money. But I think you can write down rather than saying a time, I think we should have a point of view that in maybe a week, a couple of blogs a week, maybe have one article a week on a LinkedIn, reach out on the LinkedIn, and then write down some articles there. and create some posts from on the LinkedIn, and then it may take maybe 3 to 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours a week to produce that much of content. That's at least needed to show up in the feed of these C-suites, and then get hold of them at the right time.
Thank you, Sandeep. There was another question in the chat box. What are the common mistakes that are made while creating content?
Common mistake, like Kulwant said a few times, common mistake is not defining your customer's persona, writing what you like to write. I will write, I have an idea in my mind. I think I am supreme. I think I know everything. I'll start writing and I produce a content. And there is a lot of content on the world. It's like a drop in the ocean now, right? And whereas customer like Kulwant is looking for something that solves their problem. And so that is the major disconnect. So it's not about having blue color or red color or this flower or that flower on that content. It is about finding what's actually needed and go into that, like I said, go deep into finding what are the questions are being asked. Go to Google, put in what are the questions are being asked for that particular thing, and then how many questions are being asked in that segment, and then find out, and then go and write content which solves those problems, those questions, and then that way I think you can answer that much better.
Great, thank you. Any other questions that anyone might have? And we can open up the mics as well if you'd like to just ask the panelists directly. Going once. All right, since there are no more questions, I'd like to thank all the participants for making time to attend today. And we really hope that you find the webinar useful. Thanks to Sandeep and Kulwant for putting together this engaging content. And special thanks also to Jinya, without whose continuous help in the background, we'd be lost.
Yeah.
If you'd like to avail of the benefits the Punjabi Chamber has to offer, please sign up to be a member, punjabichamber.com, and tell your friends to join as well. We're also looking for motivated individuals to help us get better and bigger. So if you'd like to contribute your time, effort, and ideas, just let any one of us know. Thank you again for joining. Happy Father's Day again.
Can I say something?
Yep, please go ahead.
Can you put that one slide before, so that Kulwant, anybody who has question can connect with us and write emails to us, and then we can answer that. And you can write email to even this one. You can take a picture of this, and these are QR codes for our LinkedIn profiles. And as Punjabi community grows, we need to help each other. We need to contribute to this community and help everyone grow better and earn prominence and a lot of money together. Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. I'm closing the meeting for all.
Thank you.